No, you can't do that. Let's look. Oh, no, this is disaster. I'm infiltrating. The king side is weak. The queen side is weak. Folks, you just can't play chess like this. I'm infiltrating. This is GG right here. Game over. He can't survive. All right, folks, in this video, I'm going to be playing players from 300 all the way to 2300. My final opponent is going to be a candidate master, which is equivalent or even stronger than a national master. It's an international FIDE title. Anyway, we're going to first start off with a 300. Then we're going to move up to a 500, a 1200, a 1400, a 1700, and finally the 2300. Okay, so far, my opponent is not playing bad. However, this is not a good move. The computer says it's okay, but he didn't play it for this reason. So the reason why he played this is because he's 300 and he doesn't have good strategy. He doesn't understand strategic chess yet. And his pawn structure is messed up. Now, it's actually okay in this position. He has a bind. He can throw his knight in here. And he can castle queenside. So this is only okay if he understands that he's doing this to create a bind on e5. And he's going to castle queenside and use this rook as an open g-file to attack possibly my king if it goes over there, which it shouldn't. However, he didn't play it for those reasons, so this is just a bad move. So a lot of times in chess, it's not just the move, it's the idea behind it. It's the context behind your move that makes it good or bad. Your follow-up moves, in other words. Okay, so again, if my opponent castles queenside and throws the rook here, attacking here, I'm going to go queenside as well. I'm not going to castle into a g-file attack with the rook, an open file. So this would still be a good strategy, and he has a perfectly fine game here. Okay, so first he throws his knight in there, which is good. So that's so far so good. I castle queenside. He castles queenside. So he actually does castle queenside here. So I didn't give him enough credit, I guess. So he comes in here. Maybe he had some preparation here. Maybe he's sandbagging. I'm not sure. But here he actually makes a tactical mistake. This is called a boomerang tactic. And whenever the knight takes, it can drop back. So if I take here, and actually it's not really a boomerang tactic. If this was a bishop, it would be a boomerang tactic. So if I took, the bishop took, I can come back and take. So it's not really a boomerang tactic. But what's happening here is I could take, and if they take, it looks like I can take here. Now let me just see that again. So if I take, they take. All right, so this is what was played in the game. I took, and they took. So I got a piece, and we traded pieces, and I actually wound up gaining a pawn here. So that was a tactical mistake by my opponent, and you could avoid that by just not maneuvering your pieces into discovered attacks, pieces that are not defended. So if it was defended, that would be okay, but it's not defended, and it leads to tactics. So I won a pawn, got my queen into the game, and now putting pressure on the f5 pawn. You'll see how quickly this game goes astray. Again, not really attacking anything. Attacking my bishop, but my bishop can move and take something, so I just take something. And after the rook attacks my bishop, I just take something else and pin the rook, so I defend the most active way, an accurate way. Now I go for a trade of bishops. My opponent should trade bishops with me and then notice that his rook is attacked and then move it, but my opponent doesn't because, unfortunately, he's only 300 and he gives it up, which is fine. There's a lot of room for improvement, but this is what I'm just showing you guys. At the 300 level, if you're around this level, you're making just really blatant, obvious mistakes and blunders, and you have to clean up your game. So he's not going to get back into the game after dropping numerous pieces by just threatening checkmating attacks, or not even checkmate attacks because I can run away, but it's a threat, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to stop it. So, this is you have to hold on to your pieces, and you can't really blunder. So I'll show you how I finish this game. My opponent just keeps on attacking, but now I just throw in a check, and now I just calculate that because my rooks guard each other, I have Luft air from my king, so there's no back rank mates. I can just ignore all these threats and just push my pawn, and that's what I did. And I can ignore the threat of my queen because I can get another queen for myself, and that is checkmate. So that's that. Not too much to go on there. My opponent just fell apart, blundered a lot. That was a 300. Now we're going to go to the 500. Now, what does the 500 do wrong? Okay, First of all, his opening is a little sus. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, never play f3 in the opening especially. Not never, but most of the time you don't want to play f3. It's a weakening move. My opponent concedes a lot of space here and now drops his knight into f5, which cannot stay there. I can actually just chop it away right away. Again, his pawn formation is a little awkward here. I guess he can play g5. And again, I would castle queenside to avoid a kingside attack here. So I just go ahead and develop and attack this pawn. So again, my opponent could play g4. I should have said g4 before, not g5, g4. And hold on to everything. That seems like the most logical move here, and that's what he played, so that's good. However, I do step in with my knight. Now, I'm not calculating in most of these games. I'm just kind of playing by instinct. I'm developing when I'm supposed to, and I'm jumping into the space that's left behind. I see these holes in his position, so I'm just aiming for the holes in his position, aiming for this, and just trying to put my pieces on good squares, basically. Okay, so my opponent defends this square now. That's a good move. My bishop is not really great, and he can take it, so I'm just going to let him take it. I could also play bishop c7, preserve it, because it has potential, this bishop, and then push this pawn at some point later on in the game and get my bishop into the game. That's another way. I just decided to just go forward here. After he takes, he goes for the pawn, and this is the losing move, believe it or not. Now, what would I take away from this game? And this is the game that I showed in the introduction of the video, the end of the game I showed. If you have a kingside attack, so in the first game, my opponent played f5 in the beginning, right? He played g6, which led to an exchange of pawns on f5, which gave him double pawns. Now, it wasn't bad in itself, but he didn't play it the right way. He really didn't know how to play that position. He didn't really understand the advanced nuances of that position, so therefore, it's not a good idea to play like that. In this case, it's the same thing. My opponent's going for this kingside attack. He cannot afford to drop a pawn here on the queen side, therefore. He has to develop his pieces and then castle queenside here and, just play solidly. If your king side's exposed, the last thing you want to do is now expose your queen side, because now your king is a sitting duck and doesn't have the king side or the queen side to go to. We have to look at the king side and the queen side as homes for our king. So this is just not dropping a pawn. This is really bad. This lets my knight into the game, attacking his queen. Now he can't go queenside. There's no fortress on the queen side. The king side is overextended, so the king's going to be stuck in the middle of the board, and black is already completely winning here. Now, after he tries to kick my knight out, I just support my knight with my queen. I'm expecting bishop b2, which is what he played, and now his bishop is out of position. The bishop, again, we want to put our pieces in the center and control the center of the board. Bishop b2 looks tempting because it's attacking my knight a second time, kind of forcing me to do something, but the bishop needed to stay here where it's basically controlling these central squares, especially this one. Now that it's not, my queen slides right in here, and the only move that white has, he can't go here because of the knight. If he blocks, he loses his queen, so he has to block here. And now, what would you do for black? I was thinking about this move, but it doesn't work because queen just takes. That's not good. So I played the best move. It's just knight d4, attacking the queen and attacking the bishop for a third time. And white is completely lost here. My opponent actually blundered because he's 500 and got checkmated. But what happens here is the best move. Let's say he just plays queen d2. I have knight f3 check. The king cannot come here. The king cannot come here. The bishop cannot take. The king has to come here. So he would drop his queen, and then he would drop his bishop. And you can see that this game is completely lost. So again, the 500 does not understand strategic chess that well, which led to a bad position, a losing position. So just the basics: develop your pieces, don't overextend, develop your pieces, castle, and then find the plan after you've done those things. Very simple stuff. Okay, now we have a 1200. Actually, it's closer to a 1300. Let's give the guy a little credit. Come on. I mean, 1291. It's definitely closer to 1300 if we're rounding up. Okay, here, this is a very common position. What we want to do here is we don't want to take with the knight, because after black takes back, we look really silly after this fork. We don't want to leave the knight there. We could play h3 to stop the bishop from piling up, but what I play here all the time is just bishop takes. Now, the point is, he took with the bishop. Well, if he takes with the pawn, now the pawn's blocking his own bishop, and I would probably just play knight e2 and just attacking that pawn twice. Another idea is you might want to play knight a4, trapping the bishop, and then you're going to, you get rid of his bishop pair. The bishop pair is an advantage. However, he took with the bishop, so I just simply get rid of the bishop first and then play knight e2. This is probably more accurate for black because now they can play c5, defending their pawn, whereas before, if they took with the pawn, after knight e2, they really have trouble defending this a second time and have to get sharp with tactics. So after bishop takes, knight e2, he played c5, defending d4, and now I just developed my queen. My opponent's playing better. As you can see, 1300, we're starting to get into the intermediate levels of chess. This is definitely intermediate level of chess. Having some good tea here. Some black Irish tea. Highly recommend it. I'm not sponsored by them, but okay. So I took here on e6. He takes back, and I play h3. Now, why did I play h3 now? Because I want to play f4, but if I play f4, I have to look at where my opponent's pawns are. Where my opponent's pawns are can potentially lead to holes in my position. In other words, if I play f4 right away, this automatically becomes a hole in my position because my pawn was guarding this square. Now the knight just drops in, and I can't stop him from coming here. I could castle or something, but now he has an absolute monster of a knight. That knight is worth like a rook, so I don't want that. So before I do f4, I play h3. The point is, now when I play f4, he cannot jump in here and go to that hole in the position. Okay, so he played d5. I just push, and now I play f4. And now his knight is a long way from here. Don't see how he can get there, so I'm fine now. Okay, so he's playing well. He's developing the queen, developing his pieces, and attacking. Notice how the 1300 plays much differently than the absolute newbies, right? He actually develops his pieces, which is good. A lot of 1300s don't even do that too well. So he's developing and attacking, making me defend, which is good. So what do? I develop and defend. So I find the most active way to defend that threat. I do something constructive even when I'm defending. I'm castling, connecting my rooks, getting my king safe. Now my opponent, though, just drops a pawn. This looks strong, so he's going to play this. However, I don't let him play c3. I just simply take, and after he takes back, I take with the queen, and I take with the knight. So now I'm just up a pawn, plus I traded queen, so I'm trading down material, plus I'm putting pressure on this pawn. Not an easy position to play. My opponent takes this pawn. However, so he thinks he's even, but now I grab this pawn and attack the rook and attack the knight. Now my opponent should play what here? Rook f7, defending the rook and the knight all in one shot. I guess my opponent didn't want to go into this knight c7 line and then e6. And he's really kind of in trouble no matter what he does. So I guess he didn't like that. So he tried to get fancy, but then I just took the knight and then took on g7. And then he just gave me his rook for some reason. Oh, he gave me his rook because he can take the knight. But now I have a whole rook on him, and this would not be a good... I would not play that. Definitely don't play that. I would play this. And this is a losing game. Okay, so the 1300 develops his pieces, hung in there a little bit better. A lot of times, chess is like a tightrope. The higher the rating of the player, the longer they can walk on that tightrope. He developed his pieces. He played good fundamental chess. He just blundered at some point, and that little blunder, that slight blunder dropping the pawn, led to more loss of material, and he couldn't hold on in the game due to tactics. My strong position gave me better tactics. He could not defend. All right, now we're going to go to a 1400, who is closer to a 1500, I have to say. Have to give the player credit here. And we have the Sicilian dragon, it looks like. It's not officially the dragon yet, But usually when someone plays d6, their bishop, since it's clogged here, it goes this way, and we have the dragon. So usually it's a tell that he's going to play the dragon, and he does indeed play the dragon. So this is just an opening. I know I have a video on the dragon. I might do another one too, but I have a video on this. I will try to link it in the description. Okay, e6. I could take the bishop here, and that's what I do. And now I play for h4, h5. Now, I go over this. There's a video I have, the one move that's killing your chess rating. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's a very important idea that a lot of players don't see. And that's, he didn't play it here, but you should be playing h5 here. You want to have a blockade, and you do not want your opponent to open up the files that he is attacking on. You want to close the position where you're defending or where your opponent's attacking. So especially, well, when it's your king, basically. So he lets me just get g4 in, and now I'm definitely going to get h5. So he attacks my bishop. I just simply move away, and now I play h5. And there's nothing he can do to stop me from opening up the h file at this point. So this is going to lead to disaster, and I'm just going to show you. I didn't even play this game that accurately. I already am winning here if I just play queen d5. Not a hard thing to see, because if he comes this way, it's checkmate. And if he comes this way, I just take him threatening to queen. And if he blocks, I have that checkmate. So very easy. I think I was playing this game on my phone. Not to make excuses, but I didn't see it. So I played rook h7, still winning here. But I'm happy I missed that, because I have this game becomes actually more instructional. And I'm going to show you why. Okay, my opponent's attacking my bishop, so I move it away. He's developing his queen. Again, my opponent's playing okay here. I castle queenside to get my king safe and to connect my rooks. Notice how in every game I play, you'll see I develop all my pieces and castle my king. Okay, my opponent is forking my rooks. So what did I do here? I just ignore it, move my knight into the game. I can't defend the fork, so I might as well throw in a fork of my own. So I'm threatening this check, winning the rook. So he takes, I take, and now I take the knight instead. Taking the rook looks good. That was my threat. When I played knight d5, it looked like I was, answering his fork with my fork, like I just said. But actually what I'm doing is I'm throwing in this in-between move first, because I'm getting a piece back, and now I'm attacking the loose rook and still attacking this. So now when he moves his rook, I could take this, but I have something better. I have queen f1 check. The king cannot go anywhere. He has to go to e8. I throw in another check, and now he lands on a discovered check. So now I'm taking away these two flight squares from my king, his king, and his queen's taking away this square. So for that reason, he has to take the bishop, and now I throw in a check, forcing his queen to block, which undefends the bishop. I take there, and now he takes. And now we're on the verge of victory. But this is a very instructive game, because we're absolutely winning here. White's absolutely winning. But we could go wrong here if we try to balance it out. Do something like, oh, he's attacking me, I'm attacking him. And let's say he takes. First of all, that would just be a gross loss of material. But even if we try to do something and trade here somehow, this is not how you want to play chess. We have the king on the ropes. Even though it looks like we're down material, we're actually completely winning here. The king is crushed. He has no where to go. All we have to do is just keep the tension here. Keep the tension. So what's the best way to keep the tension? I just simply play the best move. It's just queen takes b7, gain another pawn. But more importantly, I'm just keeping the king at bay here. Now I'm allowing the rook to come into the game. Actually, I'm threatening to bring the rook to h8, as you'll see later. And I'll explain why. So my opponent goes for an attack. Again, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to make the game double-edged and go for an attack. And now our opponent has an attack, and I'm attacking him, and he's attacking us. We can have our cake and eat it too in chess. So after I take on b7 and he threatens this, I just simply take a patient move and just block. One more patient move to defend. And now I put the ball in his court and say, you have absolutely nothing. I still have everything. I still have all my threats, but I just shut down all of his first. then I have all my threats. That's the correct way to play chess. And after he moves out of the way here, I play the killer move, rook h8. The idea is I have checkmate with the queen on e7, but the queen's defending. But now with the rook here threatening to win the queen would have to take, and then he would get checkmated as he's no longer defending that square. He threw in a check, and I move my king up, attacking the rook. There's no more checks. He's going to lose his queen, and if he takes the queen, like I said before, he gets checkmated. So the 1400 played pretty well. Just, again, got himself in a bad position. Didn't play the opening too well. Came out of it in a kind of worse position, and just was tactically in a bad spot. So let's see how the 1700 player plays. The 1700 player should give me a better fight, theoretically. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so he trades bishop for knight. Not usually great, but he's advanced. He's probably doing it for a reason. And I block here. He goes back. I get my knight on a good square. Well, there's not too much to go on here. I just bring my queen into the game. Again, I'm bringing all my pieces into the game. I'm ready to castle. You also will notice that my opponent's developed castled and just has to get 2 pieces into the game to be fully developed. So both of us are developing our pieces. My opponent takes here and I take back. If he was going to play something like this, I was going to play bishop h3, ignoring the threat. And if he takes, we have checkmate in 2. So that was my idea here. My opponent played this instead, and I start going for a kingside attack. Now, again, it's all about context. If I castle kingside, this would be a bad strategy. My point is to castle queenside and throw the rooks here and just get a strong kingside attack on my opponent. So he sees that. He sees he has my bishop trapped. There's only one move to... My bishop can't go anywhere. The only move to save my bishop is this. Now, if he moves the knight away somewhere, I can move my bishop away. I have flight squares for my bishop. And if he takes, which is what he did, I just take his knight. Now, after he takes with the queen, I take, and we have even material. The only problem is he has an open lane of attack to his king, and my king is safe. He throws another pawn away, which I think he did to open up lines of attack, but it's not really going to work. That was just too... He was too loose with material there. So I castle queenside, of course. And after this move, I throw in a check, get his king to this diagonal, and play bishop c6. Now, his only move to not lose the game here is to play bishop d5, which is what he played. But now I just simply take the pawn with the rook. So now I have him up a pawn. After he takes, I take back. I trade some up material. I play this move, so I'm not getting back rank checkmated at any point. And I play this so I can play this to get behind the pawn so I can start pushing this pawn. He threw in a check, threw in another check, and it looks like he has me on the ropes, but his king's actually the one that's very weak. I try to exploit that. He's coming in here. I have to block with the rook, but all I have to do is get my king to safety, which is what I do. And the lesson in this game is you have to take what the position is. This is a draw-ish game. You have to look for forcing moves first in chess. If you have them, go ahead and play them. If you don't have them, then you got to look for setup moves. But you can only play setup moves in certain circumstances. In most circumstances, a setup move is good, like basically a threatening move. But if your king is weak, exposed, and vulnerable to forcing moves itself, you don't have time to play setup moves. And I'll show you what happened here. I threw in a check. He blocked. I go for a queen trade. And then I have to go back here. This is all forced. And now my opponent should just go back again and play rook g1. And then maybe we'll trade queens. Maybe we'll go into an endgame. Maybe the game will be a draw. But instead, he played a threatening move, which is queen b7 mate. Now, the problem is it doesn't make sense in this position because this leads to force mate in 5. So he gave me force mate in 5. You have to defend, make sure your king is safe, come back here and wait for me to slip up and hit me with a series of forcing moves. That's the dance here. That's what the whole dynamic in this position is. Instead, he goes for a setup move himself, but leaves his king open. Now the whole thing is when he comes back with his rook, if he did, let's say, he's going to get hit with this check because his queen's no longer defending it. And when he comes here, that's checkmate. So he moved his king up, but then I just throw in this check. And then after he blocked, I could take the rook and be winning, but I have this checkmate. So the 1700 played very well. He hung in there. However, he messed up at the end. But finally, we have the 2300 candidate master from Taiwan. Okay, so let's see. This game theoretically should be the best game. And spoiler alert, it is the best game. So we have a semi-Slav out of the Queen's Gambit declined. This is what I play. And you'll notice that both players are developing their pieces and castling. So every single piece is getting developed before our opponent, we make our plans. Okay, so notice I want to take this pawn, but I wait for his bishop to move first before I take it. I don't take it now so he can take and develop his bishop in one move. All these little tempos are very important in chess. I allow him to develop his bishop first, then I take, so he has to develop his bishop in two moves. Now I kick his bishop out and play bishop e7. My idea here, and this is not my idea, this is theory, in the semi-Slav is you want to push and get this bishop on an open diagonal. My knight is covering the square as well as my bishop, so I'm going to push in the center. If he takes, I'm going to take back with the knight, have an open lane for my rook, and I'm very good here. So I take with the aforementioned knight move on c5. I'm attacking. I'm threatening to win his bishop. He moves out of the way. Notice how good players see threats. They move out of the way. So he's developing his pieces, castling. He knows his opening. We should say that first of all. He knows the theory behind his opening. He also, in general, develops his pieces, castles. When I'm threatening a piece, he sees it. Okay, so chess isn't that hard. We just have to play the 2300s. I think are just playing the fundamentals really well. They're also talented, of course, but they're playing in with the fundamentals, in line with the fundamentals. Okay, so I'm pinning his knight so he can't take. I'll take his queen. So he moves out of the way. Again, this is not really rocket science. This is pretty simple stuff. I take the knight, I exchange the rooks, and then I get my last piece into the game with tempo on an open file. He moves out of the way. He goes for a queen trade. I could play this and deny him the queen trade, but I felt like I'll go in for it. No one has the advantage here, so I figured I'll play it and then just play knight d5, offering him exchange of bishops. And this is like a boomerang tactic because if he takes, I can just drop back with the knight and take, which is what happened. And now it looks like he forked my bishop and knight. However, for tactical reasons, I can get out of it. If he comes back here, what would I play here again? I would probably play bishop takes f3, and if he takes, I would have this move, and now I'm winning the game. So for that reason, he dropped his rook back. Now I played this, and this is actually a huge blunder, and we were both in time pressure here, as you can see, and I was just going to go back and forth and repeat moves, so I didn't really calculate this out at all, and neither did he. He just played this, and then I played this. However, he has this move right here, and now after I come up to the only flight square, now he gets my rook with the fork, but again, I was repeating moves. He knows that tactic of repeating moves and time pressure, and we both weren't thinking, and we just repeated moves. So he missed something really big here. We trade rooks. I get my knight into the game. You can see now in the end game phase of the game, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to get our kings in the game, and we trade bishops, by the way. Doesn't matter. But you'll notice that we both get our kings into the game, and that's a priority. And we're not having any holes in our position. We actually have a pretty symmetrical pawn structure for the most part. And we have both have knights, so this should be, in theory, a drawish game. I'm trying to get king position on him, obviously. So he's conceding a little bit. I'm attacking his pawns, but it's not enough. I get good king position, but it's just not enough here. We have a symmetrical pawn structure. We both have knights. This is a drawn game, and I'll just show you how we played it out. We played it out a few more moves, and then that was that. But yeah, so at this point in the game, We both agreed to a draw. Actually, no, I won the game, but it's a draw in position. So I won the game because he lost on time here, unfortunately for him, but it is an even game. It's a drawn game, so we'll call it a draw out of sportsmanship. Well, there you have it, folks. Well, there you have it. Hope you liked that video. If you did, check out this video. Also very helpful. Get out of here. Go play some chess.